What's up? Welcome in to DawgsHQ live on location out at Redstone Grill. Jake Rowe holding it down out there. You can see 129 right back behind him. He's got the DawgsHQ shirts. He's got that popcorn machine, I think is what that thing is behind you. I don't even know, man. But very cool.
Smoker,
yeah, smoker. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Jake Rowe, Rusty Mansell. Guys, it's game day. It's here. This is that Georgia kicks it all off today at 3:30 against the Thundering Herd of Marshall on ESPN. I was shocked by kind of all of that. I can't believe they got a 3:30 game for this one. It tells you the power of the brand. I'll tell you that. That's really what that speaks to. So a big day. Jake, talk to us a little bit about the goings on though over at Redstone. What's happening out that way, buddy?
Man, it's awesome. There's a lot of folks in the parking lot. I've already talked to kind of a handful of people. Swing by here, and we're like, just waved as they were kind of getting out of there because we got everything set up. But we're out here with the brand new DawgsHQ tent. It's pretty awesome, and come on out here. Like I said, man, it's the best pulled pork I've ever had. They got tailgate boxes. They've got a loyalty program here. If you sign up for the loyalty program, guys, entered to win 2 tickets for 2 free tickets to the first Rock Lobsters game on Saturday, October 25th. And they're going to announce the winners on Sunday. So there's got a lot going on out here, dude. It's a tremendous place right here. Right as you're going into Athens, coming from that Jefferson Gainesville exit off of 85. I believe the exit's 137, right off Highway 129.
Why do I have a feeling they're going to have to rename it the Jake Road Loyalty Club? I feel like you're probably getting your dollars worth out of that thing, brother. Guys, let's just dive in here, man. We sponsored by Redstone today, obviously, but want to talk about this matchup for the Georgia Bulldogs. We put our predictions in yesterday. Obviously, all of us picked the Dogs. Nobody picked Georgia to cover. But I think all three of us believe that is possible, that they could do it, certainly today. Rusty, talk me through your prediction real quick. You went 48-10, Georgia.
Yeah, I just think that, those lines are probably going to be closed for a reason. Those buildings in Vegas weren't built off hopes and dreams, I can tell you that. So you want to be probably kind of close. I think, look, it's hard to tell with Marshall, 62 new players. What you're looking at, you got to kind of say, what's Georgia going to do? What are you expecting out of Georgia? And Kirby Smart, I think, is 0-12 against spread, covering the spread with point spreads like this at home. This guy could care less about that. He's trying to get his guys, trying to do all that. So, I don't know the gambling side of it, but what you want to see from Georgia is explosive plays on offense, defense flying around, and it's time. We've all done these things, we've all done these chats, we've all done these stories, we've all done this, we've all done that. I want to see how Gunnar Stockton from the start, because when the start of the game, it's 0-0. Can Georgia have a fast start? Something they did not do last year at all. Can they have a fast start in the first half? That'll be the first thing I'm looking for. Those first 2 or 3 offensive possessions. Once you see what Marshall is lining up in, what are we going to do? How are we going to attack it? And can they get off to a fast start?
Yeah, it feels like we've talked this one to absolute death to open up the season, man. I mean, this is one of those that's just kind of crept in and it's been forever. Jake Rowe, I don't have your number right offhand. I know that you didn't pick Georgia to beat the spread, but talk me through your pick.
45-10, man. I just think this is one of those games where it's not going to shock me if Georgia needs a couple late scores to get there, just because I expect them to play a lot of guys. And I don't necessarily expect them to play a lot of guys if it gets out of hand. I think they're just going to play a lot of guys, period. Because I do think that there are, quite a few players on this team that they trust to play winning football. And a little bit of a revolving door out there is certainly what I see. And ultimately, it's going to come down to when you really look at this game. I think they're just going to use these first 2, like you said, Jake, as kind of an extension of preseason practice a little bit to kind of get them ready for what's going to be an 8-game SEC slate, an 8-game run there, before kind of getting the 2 more non-conference games to end the season. This is a long season. And games like this are the ones that you can use to build depth if you handle them correctly. And I don't think Kirby's going to let the score dictate, the fact that they're going to get some guys ready to play in this game. And I don't necessarily think they're going to play anybody they don't feel great about playing. But yeah, I don't think they're going to really hone in on 30, 40, 45 guys that are their core group today.
Yeah, no, I would agree completely with that. I went 48-10 as well, Rusty, just like you did. My thought is, I think Marshall, and I've said this kind of consistently, they're going to have a chance to throw a little bit of a surprise at you. They probably got a play back there that you're not expecting, because how could you, right? There's too many new pieces to this to really have a feel on what exactly they're going to do. Plus, they'll probably get to play some of Georgia's depth along the way, and it wouldn't surprise me if they manage to score there. I'm with you, though. I think it's going to be really close to the spread, and I said they have every possible advantage at every position. Quite frankly, I think all three of us probably believe that the two scrimmages leading up to this were probably a more competitive game than what we'll see today for the Georgia Bulldogs. Henry Rowe in the house. Oh,
yeah,
right.
Hey, I do want listen, before we get into more of the game here, I'm going to pop off real quick, and our man, co-owner and operator over here at Redstone, Adam Carmine, is going to jump in. So I'll have him on in just a second, guys.
All right, Adam coming in. Rusty, you mentioned Gunnar Stockton. What are your expectations for him in this game? I mean, obviously, we don't really know how much of him we'll see. We don't really know, how are you feeling about Stockton in this one?
He's got to be super excited, man. This kid's waited 4 years to make this start. This is his fourth fall in Athens, and this is a kid that graduated high school, finished his season up 2021, and you look at him, and you got to be excited if you're Gunnar Stockton. I know his family well, and I know that they've been waiting on this moment. So if you're Gunnar, it's time to go. All the patience and all those dog walks when you knew you weren't going to be the guy. This is the first time he's going to get off that bus right there at the Tate Center. And he's going to be the dude. Like, he's going to walk through there, and I don't care how much that prepares you for it. That's a little different walk there when you make that into that crowd and through that dog walk today at 3:30. That place is going to be bonkers.
Speaking of bonkers, it's bonkers out at Redstone Grill today. Our man Adam in here with us, hanging out. Adam, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you hosting us, man. Thanks for being letting Redstone be the home of the DawgsHQ game day show, man. Talk to us a little bit about what's. Yeah, talk to us a little bit about what's going on out there today, man. How you guys spending the day?
Oh, we've got a lot of stuff going on today. We've got samples out here. We've got Bulldog merchandise. We've got you can't have a game day without fresh boiled peanuts and Brunswick stew. We've got fresh barbecue straight out of the smokehouse. Tons of ready to go steaks and burgers in our butcher shop. And lots of good stuff just going on all day long.
I love it, man. Tell Adam, I got to know, how are you containing Jake Rowe? I mean, he's a force here. Well, you get the man around smoked meats and boiled peanuts, it's over, man.
Yeah, we definitely we'll have him in meat sweats in a matter of no time.
Well, I don't want to hijack this because this is a football show, but I got to ask this. What kind of preparation went into this week, knowing this was really your first big Saturday here, a game day? What all logistically went into it, and what were the meetings like? And I'm always fascinated about behind-the-scenes stuff. So talk to me a little bit about the preparation for today with you guys.
Yeah, there's been a lot of preparation. We've been actually planning this for about 6 months since we've been open. Sure. We've been talking about getting to this day right here, right now. As we're right on 129 going into Athens, so it took a lot of logistical gatherings with our staff, with our making sure everybody's on the same page, getting with all the vendors, coordinating the orders, you name it. There's been a lot of long days every day.
Yeah.
Adam, talk to me about this game today, buddy. What are you looking forward to seeing? What are you? I mean, obviously, you're looking forward to seeing all the dog fans cruising by Redstone, but I am curious. Talk to me about who you're going to be watching today.
Oh man, I mean, as far as the players, I mean, today is the day that we've got to see Gunnar step up and really show that he is the leader of the team. I mean, that I think is everybody's question for today. Is like, are we going to see Gunnar do what we know he can do and do it consistently well? And hopefully you have a good line to back him up this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know there's been some question marks.
Yeah. Adam's been reading the boards over at DawgsHQ. Clearly, yeah. The line. I think everybody is going to be watching that one. Rusty, I know that we will definitely be watching that one close. Adam, I got to ask you, talk to me about if I come to Redstone today. What do I need to get? What's on my plate? How would you put a plate together if it's you?
If you're coming in, you got to get our brisket Philly, the brisket Philly or the pork belly sandwich. And as a matter of fact, debuting today, we did it at G-Day, but we're debuting it today is the Gunner Burger. And it's got 21 ingredients in there, and it is a mouth-watering experience.
I love it, man. I know Jake Rowe is off camera, just like shoveling this down.
We're never gonna get Jake Rowe on post game today. That man's gonna be net.
I'm worried about getting him to the game to begin with, man.
Ooh, man.
Oh, man.
Gentlemen, I really do appreciate you guys, and we enjoy having you all out here. And we just can't wait to see them kick it off between the hedges at 3:30.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. We appreciate you, buddy. And definitely hope everybody gets by Redstone today.
Go Dogs.
Yeah, man. Adam Carmine in there at Redstone, man. What a great time, Rusty.
He had me at Brisket Philly. I don't know if I've ever heard that. But, I mean, how can you mess that up? You know what I mean? So I do want to make one note here. We'll probably talk about this. Is that Genesis Dupree there checking in from Nashville, Tennessee? Let me tell you something. If you haven't read on DawgsHQ the thread from Charles Power, our national director of scouting and recruiting, he was at the Jared Curtis game last night live in Nashville, and Jared Curtis, he purposely waited to see this game. He played Innsworth, a much bigger school, private school there, and Nashville Christian. They heard all of that. They heard all the smack talk that you don't play anybody. And you don't do this and you don't do that. But if you haven't read that thread of what Jared Curtis did last night and you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, you need to go check that out because that young man put on a show. And the text that I received from Charles Power last night, who's not easy with compliments now, he sent me one last night. So I'll just leave it at that. He was extremely impressed with what Jared Curtis said last night to beat Innsworth in overtime. I think he had 5 touchdowns and over 350 total yards. So the best team he's ever played, he might have played the best game he's ever played.
Yeah, Innsworth, man, listen, for the people who are not familiar, that's one of the top, if not the top private school program in the state of Tennessee. I mean, you're talking about high level. I hate to bring the name up, but Rico McGraw, probably the last player you might remember from Innsworth. It was obviously a huge night for the Georgia quarterback commit. And like you said, Rusty, doing it on the big stage against a team he really needed it. I think people were waiting on that. I got that question from somebody this week. They said, yeah, he's obviously big. He's obviously got a strong arm. But, does he really kind of have the juice? He's playing against guys that are not on his same level. And I said, arm talent's arm talent. At the end of the day, if a guy can make the throws, he can do it, man.
Yep. That was the one. I mean, Charles don't go to many games, and it was local. But that was the one he wanted. He told me back in the summer, he said, I'm not worried about seeing him at Elite 11. I'm not worried about seeing him, at a 7-on-7 event in Florida. I want to see him play Innsworth, and he got his money's worth last night.
That's one of the things I want to say real quick before Jeremy comes on. We got him coming on here in just a second, but that was put the team on your back type game. I mean, the runs, the big throws, converted a big 4th down in that game, kind of rolled through across his body, found a running back to move the chains. They were 2 scores down a couple of different times in that game. And, man, I tell you, I know a lot of people have brought up kind of the competition concerns there about, kind of playing private school ball and that sort of thing. But, man, I tell you, if that doesn't assuage those concerns at least just a little bit when you start talking about his the level of competition he plays and what he's able to do. I mean, they produce, man. I mean, listen, our best Nashville source ever, and then he's still a source even if he's not with us anymore, is our man Palmer Toms. And Palmer has told me all years, like, yeah, that'll be a game where they learn some stuff. That Innsworth has a good program and top 10 team in Tennessee, and for him to kind of put the team on his back there. I mean, listen, I think anybody has to consider what they're dealing with over there at Nashville Christian. It's not the Brentwood Academy or Montgomery Bell or Innsworth. and to be able to take, and put the team on his back for a game like that, unbelievable. And it certainly spoke to me, just like you said, Rusty, reading through that thread over at DawgsHQ and Charles kind of giving us the update. He did it. I mean, he's one of those guys that showed you he can kind of take a team, because Innsworth's more talented than they are front to back easily, and made it happen. That's not common.
And a testament, I would say too. People talk a lot in this. Jared Curtis could have gone to a number of different places. He could have gone to any school he wanted to this offseason. I promise you that anybody in the country would have welcomed him with open arms. But he stayed with his school, man. He stuck with his guys and is riding with his dudes. So I sat
down with him, and I sat down with his coach last year, and I don't think it's crossing the line. He almost went to a bigger school. Yeah. And the reason he didn't go to a bigger school, and he sat there and said it right in front of the coach, was, I grew up with these kids. I want to win a state championship with these kids. And there's something to say about that. You know what I mean? They go on and win the state championship last year, and he stays. But, his coach played at Vanderbilt, so he's got some SEC ties there. And listen, we're about to watch Arch Manning play here at 12 o'clock. Nobody has questioned that small school he played at. You want to talk about small private school league? Arch Manning was on a small private school league, and nobody has any concerns there. So I have no concerns about Jared Curtis and the level he plays. I'm just impressed that the best team that he's played in high school last night, he played his best game ever. And that's what you want to see. Speaking of best games ever, look at my man Jeremy Johnson showed up here early. Stay out of that brisket Philly. I'm hearing rumors up there. That thing's strong at Redstone.
Absolutely not. That is why I'm here. That is why I decided to show up this bright, beautiful morning. It is just for the brisket.
Jeremy, you had a chance to get out last night, man. Watch North Gwinnett versus Colquitt County. Big game out there in the Gwinnett area. Jay Lamar, I know everybody wants to know how things looking with this guy. Talk to us about his performance last night, first and foremost.
I mean, well, he played really well. He's banged up. I mean, he acknowledged it after the game. I talked to him a little bit. I was like, man, I can tell you're really giving it a go, and you don't really seem like yourself. And he's like, yeah, there's some things I can't do, and there's some things I want to do, but I have to kind of take it easy. And they kind of shifted him around and didn't play him a ton. I don't know what his final stats were. Rusty may be able to tell you better than I can, but he broke off a few long runs, and that's a pretty good North Gwinnett football team. Those guys are coached really well. They got some really good football players over there. Jake Godfrey is a guy we may end up hearing about a little bit. Middle linebacker there that plays really well. So I think last night's performance only showed you glimpses of what he can be and what he is. The thing that got me was his explosiveness and his ability to make people miss in the hole.
Yes,
he doesn't have his full arsenal of ability, but he still is able to miss. He's still able to make guys miss at the 7A, 6A high level football. And that kind of tells me, hey, this guy is a guy you can count on. You can leave a guy unblocked and he can make that guy miss and make yards, positive yards every time he touches the football. And that is invaluable when it comes to talking about a guy that's in there first, second down, third down as well.
I tell you what, they put him in the Wildcat one time, Jake, and they ran into the short side of the field, and he got the edge and turned it up. And it reminded me a lot of Miko Hardman when he was at Elbert County, when they would just straight snap it to him. And he was faster than everybody to be able to turn up field. And Jeremy's 1,000% right. I was impressed at how quick he gets north-south, but how much he made something out of nothing. I mean, there's a lot of times he ran into the pile where I go, that's not going to be nothing. And next thing you know, it's 2nd and 3. And I can't tell you, if you follow my work, give me the 2nd and 3 guy all day long. I don't care what you run to 40 in. Give me the guy that can make it 2nd and 3 and make people miss in space. And he was banged up. And I talked to Coach before the game. He said, look, man, he couldn't have played last Friday, but he's not missing this game. And, he's about 80-85%. The year goes on. I asked him last night, is this something he's going to deal with all year? They said, no, this is something we think is going to get better and better. So he's got a different gear. I was impressed. And I think when you give him a little bit of space, man, that's what you want. Because in the SEC, that window ain't going to be open long. You got to have somebody that can hit the hole. I was impressed last night with this young man. I could see why it got down to Georgia, Miami, and Clemson battling for this young man. And I taught a lot of people last night on the sideline pregame. I said, is there anything for Georgia to worry about? And everybody was pretty unanimous going, no, that kid's going to Georgia.
That's huge, man. I mean, look, go turn the tape on at Jay Lamar if you haven't seen it. It sounds like everything he showed last night backs up what we've seen on tape, man. That's what we saw consistently, him making guys miss. I'm curious, any thoughts from either of you guys on Zachary Lewis, the offensive line commit for the Georgia Bulldogs last night?
Jeremy, go ahead. I'll let you start.
Well, Zachary is very physical. That's the first thing I noticed about him. It's not – people think physicality is just what you do on the football field. That's as entity is to an extent. But Zachary Lewis carries himself like a tough guy. He's the guy that was out in front. I don't know if, my video last night, he was the one leading the charge pregame. He's the loudest voice you hear. He's got that eye black that he puts on, and he looks just downright intimidating. He's that guy. He's one of those guys that hits you with the screws of his helmet. That's him. Drew Bobo is one of those guys that does that in Georgia's program right now. And I don't know if he's the same type of athlete that Drew is, but personality type and playing style are very similar to what I see from Drew Bobo at this point. He has a long way to go, though.
Yeah, I tell you what I like. Yeah, I mean, that's not a kid they're counting on to play, but I'll tell you the one thing, the mentality-wise, he played a lot of defense too.
Yes.
Like, when you're a big guy and you want to play snaps, and that's impresses me, man. The guys that you see that, he knows he's a Georgia coming on offensive line, but they ask him to play defense too. He doesn't lose reps on offense. He just goes out and plays extra reps on defense. When you like it like that, he's up in there mucking it up in the middle. And, at the end of the game last night, North Gwinnett took that thing over with 2 long drives. And you go back and watch, and there was a lot of plays in behind him. They rode their big horse there to try to reset the line of scrimmage. So, I don't worry about where his ranking is. I love that comparison kind of to Drew right there. Drew Bobo, a kid that's got a high ceiling, a little bit raw. Was this kid make noise next year at Georgia? Probably not. Will he start second year? It may not. But this kid could be a multi-year starter in Athens. And you got to kind of like Jeremy's piece this week when Jeremy wrote the story on him. He said he committed on June the 9th, and he said, I'm done. I'm going to Georgia. So you like to hear that. This day and age, man, those are the kind of people that make Georgia, Kirby Smart smile, I'm sure. Like, hey, this kid, I ain't got to worry about this kid. He's in the boat, and I'll see him in December.
Yeah, one of the things that stands out to me about what you were saying, Jeremy, it calls to mind what I saw of Warren Erickson back when he was at North Gwinnett. I mean, just kind of a MFer, man. I mean, he just kind of, he carried himself that way, and he was tough, man. I mean, you knew by the way he played that he was like that. Guys, big visit list this weekend. Several big names in town. Jeremy, you wrote, I believe it was Joshua Sam and Apelli is the guy. I agree with you totally on that. I think that that's probably the big visit. Although getting Jay Lamar is pretty big for Georgia, as he was originally slated for Bama FSU.
Yeah, I think getting him back on campus, we talked about it, and I'll have something on this a little later. But him getting and canceling that visit, I think he felt like it was important for him to be there for game 1. I mean, I think he will take visits. He's going to go to other campuses,
sure.
and that's his right. And I don't, like Rusty said earlier, I don't think there's anything to worry about with this guy. I think he loves Georgia, and I think you can see by his reaction on his commitment day that I haven't seen a recruit cry after he committed to Georgia. He knew where he was going when he walked up there, but saying it out loud really meant something to him. I don't think you can throw that away. And I don't think that he intends to. I think he just wants – I mean, you get to go watch college football for free. You want a guy that loves football. You want a guy that loves to watch football. So that's what I think Jay Lamar is, and I think that's kind of what his mindset is. There's other schools talking to him, but he's one of the best running backs in the country. That's going to happen. So Georgia's going to do it with other players as well. So I think getting him on campus today, though, is big because, he was going somewhere else. And it was another game against – two big teams that are, going to be national championship contenders. So the fact that he called that off, I'm coming to Athens, that says a lot about where his heart is to me.
Absolutely. Rusty,
I'm sure Kirby Smart goes, hey, you're an hour from campus. You're not going back down south.
Yeah.
You got all weekend off, my man. You just come over here after that game. You come to Athens tonight, so I'm sure
we'll figure out some gas money. We'll figure out a way. Rusty, looking at this visit list for this weekend, man, who's kind of got your eye outside of Jay Lamar?
Well, you look at the tackles. There's a kid named Ty Johnson. It's over in the Charleston, South Carolina area. He's there today. Talked with his dad last night and said Kirby Smart invited him back to the Buttsmere after the game. So this is a guy that's worked out for Georgia a couple of times. Obviously, his dad played at Georgia. Mom was, I believe, a majorette at Georgia. So he's got some connections there, even though he's in South Carolina. His uncle, by the way, played on one of the Notre Dame national championship teams with Rocket Ismail and all those guys. So he's got Notre Dame and Georgia blood in his family. So that's a kid I'm listening to see what happens today if Georgia winds up offering him at some point. And if they do, they're going to be in that very much. He's a 6'6", 275-pound kid out of Lucy Beckham High School over at Mount Pleasant, right there where Monroe Freeland's from in that area. So there's a lot of guys in town today. What I like about this is my man Jeremy Johnson. We can do all the expected visitors. You know what I mean? But Jeremy gets to get in there and get his eyes on it, and then we get a post list. So really that post list is kind of who you look at. But, there's going to be a lot of going to be some in-state guys in town. And you think about this, Tennessee and Syracuse are playing in the Mercedes-Benz. They can host prospects. You got Alabama, Florida State for all, a lot of the South Georgia guys are going to that game. So, whoever they get in. And, oh, by the way, up the road about an hour in Clemson and LSU tonight, it's another big game. So there's a lot of places for recruits to go. I think if you get guys on campus today that we consider like our major targets, I think that's a good thing. But the young man that's rated number 1 in the state of Georgia for the class of 2028, Jeremy will have more on him. Giovanni Tuggle out of Winder Barrow. And yesterday, I thought was spot on. Jeremy said this guy reminds him a lot of Malachi Starks. He's that type of guy that can impact both sides of the field. I don't know if he's a 24-foot long jumper, but on tape, he looks dynamic as Malachi Starks. So that's a great start. And he is the number 1 rated sophomore in the state of Georgia already for On3 Rivals. So to get him on campus today, right up the road in Winder Barrow. It's been a while since Winder Barrows had one of these guys, but they got one right now for sure. He's the number 1 player in the state early on in his class.
Yeah, he dominates high school football. I watched. I turned on the tape and I went to coach. I was like, I don't do scouting and I don't do the rankings. But I'm like, this guy is like one of the guys. I'm like, oh my God, that's a 5-star. Like that was his freshman year in the first 5 or 6 games. He's spectacular player. He does a lot for that team, and I know Georgia's gonna be really one of the teams to beat in that one.
Ah, man, I love to see it for the Double G Bulldogs out there in Winder, man. That's awesome. I do my student teaching out there, so I got a soft spot for them, and that's super cool to see for them. Guys, big weekend in this regard, and it's just going to continue to be. Obviously, I think that Jeremy, you mentioned the idea. Jay Lamar is going to continue to take visits, folks. Other kids committed elsewhere are going to visit Georgia this season too. So don't think this is a one-way transaction. I promise there will be some names that pop up that you're not expecting along the way.
Some today.
Very, very possibly today. Sure. I remember very vividly, like when Travis Hunter popped up. Right? God, that was a long day.
Probably don't always talk about that, but let's save that one for the 30 for 30.
Yeah, that's definitely a 30 for 30.
Jeremy, we talked about our game picks. I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on yours. What was it? What was your score prediction and why?
I think I went 35-3 or 35-6. You see the big number that is being put out in some of these places, and I just don't think Georgia doesn't cover these because it's like, it's there's so little time in these games now. I mean, you get through the first quarter in a possession. So without turnovers and without easy interceptions for touchdowns or special teams touchdowns, like you can't really get to a number that allows you to win a football game by 40. Marshall has a lot of newness about them, but they run the football, so they're going to eat up the clock on their end. So there's not going to be time. I think Georgia's going to win this game, and I think they'll win pretty convincingly. But it's one of those things where it's like, man, you look up and it's the third quarter and it's only 28-6 or whatever, and Georgia's going to have to find a way to run the football themselves, and I think that's part of their identity this year. So they're going to do it as well. So that's going to eat up the clock too. So I think there'll be some big plays, but that's kind of where I'm at on Georgia. The Clemson and Ohio State, not Clemson, Texas and Ohio State. I think Texas is just a more talented football team. We spent all offseason hyping this team, saying they have this person and that person, this first rounder, Arch Manning, and whatever. How do you then have them as a underdog against Ohio State, the team they just played against in the national championship? I don't think Texas loses today, and I don't think it's particularly close. The Virginia Tech and South Carolina game really kind of caught my attention because I think Virginia Tech's one of those teams that's just tough. They have a good culture. They're going to run the football, and that's going to be one of those games that's going to be sloppy. I think South Carolina wins, but it's going to be really close. I'm trying to remember some of our other picks, LSU and Clemson. I think Clemson's going to has a lot of hype. They're at home, but I think LSU has to prove they can win these games because that staff, Brian Kelly over there, they've been in place now for, I think this is their 3rd year, so they have a lot of talent, and they have a proven quarterback, and I think you have to win these games on the road because that's what you're going to have to do in SEC play. They're going to have to go and beat Alabama. They're going to have to go and beat Florida. So doing it today at Clemson, that's going to be huge for that team's psyche. I think they'll go up there and win.
Clemson, that's a bad. If Clemson loses that game, that's a bad loss.
That is a bad loss. They just lost to Georgia last year, so
it's a bad loss for the ACC too. Like you need to win this game, because LSU can win. LSU could lose this game, and as long as they don't get run out of the building, they got a million other opportunities to get right back to where they want to be at the end of the year. Clemson gets beat at home tonight, and that's a bad loss for the ACC. And if Notre Dame were to beat Miami, I mean, it would be a rough weekend. Now, the ACC's got a lot going on, too. It's a big win last night for Georgia Tech, but you start talking about different level when you go play LSU and Notre Dame. That's 2 big games for the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that Miami and Notre Dame game. It's kind of early in the year, but I almost kind of look at that one as a quasi pre-playoff game because the winner of that game kind of has that inside track of being one of those at-large teams.
A resume. That's a resume.
Resume builder. Because I don't think Miami will beat Clemson and win the ACC. And you still got to factor in the SMU. And I personally think Georgia Tech is going to be a team that factors into that somewhere. But you start trying to give out these automatic with these at-large bids at the end. Well, you're going to immediately come to Notre Dame and Miami at the end and be like, well, this team won, so they're going in. It's early, but it's like it's one of those ones that's probably the biggest, most important game of the weekend for anyone, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's huge. There's no question about that. It's going to be it's a good slate of games, despite the Georgia Marshall matchup. I mean, it's no, but I know everybody's excited to see the Dogs back in action. Really kind of get a feel for what this 2025 team is all about. I know we're all going to be looking for improvements on the offensive line. Can they get the running game going? Who's kind of rotating through the secondary and how much, right? Will we see finally Ellis Robinson step to the forefront? There's a possibility of that. That second safety spot next to KJ Bolden is huge. I think that the inside linebacker rotation is going to be very interesting too. Chris Cole and Justin Williams are just absolutely been waiting their turn for a while now. So it's going to be a big, big day no matter how you slice it, guys. It's huge for the Georgia Bulldogs. Boys, I got to hop off of here. I'm going to throw it back to Jake Rowe here in just a moment. I know he's going to be coming back on, but everybody have a wonderful day, game day, and the boys will take you out here.
Well, are we in here? What we got? Is Rowe coming back on?
He's coming.
Is he signing autographs over there? Is that the mayor?
Exactly,
he's eating the brisket Philly, is what he's doing. He's eating the damn brisket Philly, is what he's doing.
He has the one that I bought for myself before I got on. He's taking it away now.
Did you let him hold?
I let him hold it for a minute, and he just.
You said, "Hey, I'm going to get on camera here. Let me give you the Philly. Hold the Philly."
Thanks. This is mine. I appreciate it. Right. We are matching today, so we're.
You got the Wonder Twins out there. All right, guys, take it easy, and thanks for everybody tuning in today. And we got more from.
See you, Jake.
Man, I am trying to. We in right here. What we got? We're about to come in with Rowe.
Yeah,
Jeremy, I need you to go in there and give me a real food review now. Okay, I need a grown man. I think Rowe's a little too tight to the company over there, so I need a real scoop. So you get in there and do some work for the next 30 minutes for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna get in there and then I'm gonna have a full food review. It'll be
do
on
that.
the board before I get out of here.
Do that. All right, guys. I'm going to let these guys do some changeover right here. We're here. Our guys are live at Redstone Market and Grill, right in there off 129, and we're going to be there all year. And I can't wait. I will be there all year with Jake after the start of the Alabama weekend, and it's a great place. Like I stopped by there. I was in Athens Monday filming a special with Fox 5, and I just stopped in. Didn't tell anybody I was coming in. I said, look, let me go check this place. I went G-Day, but I go in there and I check it out. And, man, if you're tailgating, it's got everything you need. They have your boxes prepared. They have everything going. And it's just really a one-stop shop. What I like about Redstone is, number one, it's off to the right. It's an easy off, and then you can get gas. Listen, just be honest with you. They got a huge cooler, so you can get your cooler stacked in. The tailgate boxes, though, if you don't follow us on socials, please do. But go look at the Redstone tailgate boxes. I mean, all that stuff's done. You can order it pre-done, cooked, whatever you want. It's ready to go. But we're happy to be out there all year and stop by and see us. I would imagine Jake is starting to pick up a little bit. And I think this is one of those places that people are going to stop by once, and then it's going to start being a tradition. That's where we're going to stop. We're going to get in there and get our stuff. And you need this. This was what was needed between that exit and then get into Athens. Basically a one-stop shop, man. And I think everybody's going to be excited about seeing that place. And they got a ton of Georgia stuff in there, like crazy amount of cups, shirts, hoodies, plates, everything. I couldn't believe how much Georgia stuff they have.
Yeah, I was actually trying to go live from inside of there, and I just, I honestly couldn't get away from folks that had come, and I'm not, I don't want to say that negatively. Like, a lot of folks showed up, and man, it's humbling, to see that so many folks coming out here because we were there. Some folks that live close by, some folks that came from all the way from Marietta. So funny thing is, fella that showed up from Marietta brought this over here. Rusty, check this out. This is a Jack Nicholson movie, The Two Jakes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he brought me a Blu-ray copy of The Two Jakes with Jack Nicholson over here. So I tell you what, this DawgsHQ family, man, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And
crazy.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of energy out here, man. It's, we did the G-Day thing out here, and we had, you were here, and a lot of folks showed up, and we got to shake a lot of hands and, dozens of people. But man, it's so much more, going on here today. And like you said, I do believe this is the type of place where, folks come a couple times, and then they're just kind of making a tradition swing through here, whether it's to get your breakfast before you go to the tailgate. Pick up a tailgate box, grab you a couple sandwiches to eat at the tailgate. I mean, they got it all, dude. They definitely have it all. But also, Rusty, we got a game later today.
Yep.
Georgia kicks off the season, and I want to spend some time kind of breaking this matchup down. By the way, our man Rob Say is here as well. My man Rob's over here. He's about to snap a photo of me.
Let me tell you something. If he don't take a selfie with you, it will not be official. You just tell him I said that. You tell him I said that.
But, so ultimately, man, I look at this game and, Georgia won an SEC championship last year, and they made a college football playoff. And still, I know exactly why fans feel the way they do. It just looked so clunky and so difficult most of the time last year. It was slow starts. It was injuries. It was just some of the weirdest stuff. I remember we were in the press box so many times last year, and there would be a drop on 3rd and 4 early in the game, and you're just like, man, this team just will not make it easy on themselves. But I still think, Rusty, looking back at last year and before we get into this year, it was still one of the best coaching jobs I think Kirby Smart has ever done. You can debate on what coaches got through, what and why there were struggles, but I think Kirby Smart did a fantastic job getting this team to play like he did last year. And with that as the backdrop, it's why I kind of have a lot of optimism going into this season, is because I know there were issues. And for all the things that Kirby Smart is about, identifying those and fixing those, I think is maybe his most elite talent outside of building a great roster.
Also, Jake, maybe the hardest schedule I've ever played.
Yeah,
that we've been in, the team we've covered. You're talking about all the games on the road at Alabama, at Ole Miss, at Texas. They played some games last year that were some tough games. And I'll say this
right now.
I'll say this. Tell somebody
somebody asked me, said, "Hey, is Rusty inside?" I said, "No, I'm talking to him right now."
So I'll see him in a couple of weeks. I'll say this. I'll say this too. I'll say this about, we can get into the weeds with all the other stuff, but I'll say this. I think coaching is going to become way more important now because the rosters, nobody can really stack the 3 and 4, 5 stars like Georgia was able to do in 2021, 22. They were able to stack those guys. I think coaching is going to become more important because anybody can beat you on any given night now. And because teams have good players. And, I was watching Nebraska the other night, Jake. Elijah Pritchett is a kid that Georgia would love to have. He's playing left tackle from Nebraska. He left Alabama, goes in the portal, and he goes to Nebraska. Williams Nawari is a 5-star, one of the top 5 players in America. He was in Missouri. He left to go to Nebraska. So teams like that are able to pay kids. They're able to say, look, you want to come to Nebraska? We got a spot and all that. So that's kind of to me, the way this thing is, and getting back to the original point there, coaching is that much more important. And if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, I trust Kirby Smart. I've seen him in big games. I've seen him in big moments. I've seen his teams in big moments. Have they won them all? No. But they've won a hell of a lot of big games. And I think that, you're right about that. Last year was a lot going on with that team, a lot of injuries. They still won the SEC championship. I feel like we covered a team that went 8-5. I feel like we covered the 2016 team, but that's what he's built. The goal there is to win the national championship or to get to that game. And people ask me all the time, can we win it? I said, I don't know if Georgia's can win a national championship. I know they can get there. They've got a roster that's just as good as anybody. You got to be healthy at the end, and you got to be hot at the end. And that process starts today.
My man Jason Cancel says, when I'm done with pregame, can I get a pulled pork sandwich to go and bring it to him in Hong Kong? Jason, I think it'd go bad before I get there. You might get an appendicitis if you eat that one. On top of that, Rusty, here's the way I look at it too is, okay, let's take the whole parity thing and kind of break it down for a second. Well, what does that mean? Well, you're probably looking at, you just mentioned Nebraska. And They got Elijah Pritchett. They got Williams Nwaneri. They've got, a $3 million quarterback there in Dylan Raiola. And they've got all of those things. And they still needed everything they could get to basically handle a de facto home game there in Kansas City for them to beat Cincinnati to start the season. There's going to be blowouts. I'm not saying there's not going to be blowouts, but those in large part are just going to be when you're completely overwhelming a team, or when there's injuries, or when there's a bunch of turnovers. Those things are there. It stands to reason that there are going to be a lot more, tight football games, and I love Georgia in tight football games with Kirby Smart as their head coach. You start talking about betting second halves, and it's a tight game at halftime. Who do I think is going to be the best? Doesn't mean they're going to win all of them, but listen. I watched Georgia last year against Ole Miss, and they just couldn't muster enough. They kept fighting. It was clean. Yeah. They certainly didn't quit. It was a couple fumbles there late, kind of doomed them and kept them from getting back into that game. But you still felt that entire time like Georgia was going to get back into that game. They weren't quite able to do it. It was almost shocking that they didn't. Yeah. Well, Alabama was beating them 28-0, and Georgia Tech had them, down 2 scores with 5 minutes left. Georgia found a way to get back into those games and took a lead and lost it in one, and then won another one in 8 overtimes. That's something that I trust to be a part of Kirby Smart teams, is when they don't play their best, mounting an effort to give themselves a chance to win, and that's what it comes down to. But I also think, Rusty, I don't know that Georgia is more talented this year than they were last year. I don't think they are. I still think this Georgia team has a chance to be a better team, and I think the schedule itself sets up better for Georgia, not just with these first 2 runway games for them, but now instead of getting 3 of the best, there's no doubt in my mind Georgia played 3 of the best 15 teams in the country, probably 3 of the best 12 teams in the country last year on the road. They get those 3 teams at home. And
two of those 3 at 8 p.m.
And all 3 of them, and all 3 of those teams have new quarterbacks. So it's a little different this year. Now, Georgia may not be quite as talented as it was last year, but I don't think it's up against the juggernaut of a schedule that it was last year. When I look at this team, one thing I constantly ask myself is, where do I think Georgia can make the biggest leap? Like, what position group, what part of their game can they make the biggest leap? And I point to their ability to run the football. Again, not because there's just so much more talent, but I have a hard time believing Georgia's going to get as banged up along the offensive line as it was last year, and that's where I really do think Georgia can make a big stride.
Yeah, and I think that some new energy, man. You know what I mean? There was, and I'm not saying anything about anybody else. There's some guys that have been in that building for a long time, and there were some guys that knew they were, 6-7 months away from playing Sunday football and just beat up. And there's some guys that's got that. There were guys last year that knew they were about to go to the NFL, period. There's guys now that at Georgia, they got to prove themselves. Okay, you got to have some young energy there with some guys. Look at Drew Bobo. All the publicity that we've kind of talked about him, he's got to go out and prove it now. You look at Micah Morris. We consider him probably a full-time starter now. You look at Monroe Freeland, who was a 5-star coming out of high school, had a great stretch run when they put him in that Ole Miss second quarter. Ole Miss, he had a great 3 games, and then he gets hurt and does not have a great Notre Dame game at all. Tried to play through that. Then he has surgery 2 days later. He's got something to prove. Ernest Green, it's some money. I think you said the other day, it's a money year for him. This is he's got to go out and prove that he's that guy. So I think there's some guys there that should have chips on their shoulders, and that's what you want to that offensive line group. And I'm interested today in the run game. I think everybody is. Can they get the running game going? I want to see, can you make a guy miss? Like I felt like last year, too many people were able to just tackle Georgia and put them to the ground without yards after contact and all that. Let me see you break the tackle. I watched one of their commits last night, Jay Lamar, play, and he's banged up. But what I liked about him, what I liked about him, man, he made people miss in small spaces, man, and just making something out of nothing. I felt like last year Georgia was really missing that, and let's make one cut and make a linebacker miss one-on-one, and let's turn 4 or 5 yard gain into 13 or 14. Let's do a couple of those today and see some explosive plays. You got to be happy, man. If you're you got to be super excited for Gunnar Stockton. You waited a long time for this, and I said this earlier. That dude's gonna get off the bus today in this dog walk, and he's never walked in that building as the guy, and he's gonna walk in there today as the guy. It's gonna be a different walk for him. And I know he's got to be excited. I know he's going to be there for the moment. So be interested to see how he plays today.
Josh Armstrong says, give me a young, hungry chip with a chip on their shoulder and everything to prove versus a veteran team that may suffer from complacency any day of the week. And, hey, listen, I do think last year's team suffered from a little bit of complacency, Rusty. I do. Listening to some of the comments this spring, Oscar Delps called it on himself. It was like a pickup game where he fouled somebody and he called a foul on himself. He said, hey, I had one foot out the door at times last year, and it wasn't until later in the season I realized that I was focusing on the wrong things. And what do you know? He caught 4 touchdown passes right there at the end of the regular season, like in like 3 games. So, certainly I think there's going to be an element of self-awareness with this team, and I don't necessarily know it's a bad year to be young, especially when you're as talented as Georgia is, because of that hunger. It's something that Kirby has mentioned dozens of times, this preseason fire, passion, and energy. I'm really fascinated, and I think we do get a little bit of a look at it today to see if Georgia pushed the right buttons, to see if Kirby pushed the right buttons, because he's really good at it. And, I can hear fans out there, especially the ones that kind of tend to lean towards glass half empty. I can see them out there rolling their eyes a little bit. Hey, Kirby sounded a little different, and mantras and all this stuff. Whatever. I don't know why any Georgia fan would feel that way, because I stopped doing it in 2021 when Kirby was trying to tell us all about connection, and I rolled my eyes, and then next thing I know, they reel off 2 straight national championships, and I feel like they found a little something there. But I certainly feel like this preseason there was a tone from Kirby on the hunger, the fire, passion, the energy, the playing a lot of guys, the competition. I felt like there was a big rebound there that we've been kind of excited to get a look at.
One of the comments there from Libby loves softball. So I'm assuming that's a young lady, and I'm a huge softball fan. Says if Stockton can be half as mobile as Haynes King or Jackson Arnold, will be fine. You don't want to be mobile as either one of those guys. Haynes King was, I think, 19 rushes for 156 yards. And you don't want Gunnar Stockton running 19 times. And I promise you right now, Georgia Tech don't want Haynes King running 19 times, because he won't last all year. That's a running quarterback. And I think Gunnar Stockton is a throwing quarterback that has the ability to hurt you with his legs some, but he is a throw first pocket guy, and he'll hurt you. He can get outside, but you definitely don't want Haynes King. You don't want him running 19 times like Haynes King did last night. So Jackson Arnold obviously had a good start, but saying that, Libby, with that, yes, you do want him to be as mobile a little bit and dual threat guy. He has that package to him, but don't get me wrong, Gunnar Stockton, and I said it this week. I don't know where the perception is that he don't have a live arm. I can promise you he has a very live arm. Great deep ball accuracy. Be interested to see today with these new wide receivers. Excited to see Zachary Branch play for the first time, but the explosive plays today. Be interested to see all that stuff.
Yeah, me too. That's a big one too. And I'm not going to take a whole lot away from the game plan, and what we see today, because you and I have talked about this, Rusty. I feel like Georgia, both sides of the ball, they'll be vanilla. They're going to because they can be and they should be. If you can go in, I think any coach will tell you, hey, if we can just go in and run our base stuff and win a ball game, they'll win. They'll do it every single time, rather than try to be creative, so to speak. And that to me is a little bit of an overused word. What's creativity? Is it a double reverse pass? Is it some weird route concept or some different route concept? I don't know. I'll tell you this though. What should happen in this game is Georgia should be able to come in and do what it does well, execute to the point that it handles Marshall. And if it doesn't, I don't think that's necessarily a red flag, but it means the team's got to get a lot better. And but I am interested to see, that how they go about doing what they do well today. Do they come out and do they pound the rock and try to get that part of it going, or do they go out there and they kind of cut Gunnar loose and try to get him into a rhythm right away and let him work with those wide receivers and kind of maybe strike some fear in the teams going forward with a bigger, more physical, more explosive group of wideouts? Because when you look at the whole thing, Rusty, you basically exchange Dominic Lovett for Zach Branch, and you replace Arian Smith with Noah Thomas. And then outside of that, everything else is exactly as it was last year, with the addition of Colby Young, Dylan Bell, and London Humphreys, a year older, and a couple of really talented freshmen there in Talon Taylor and C.J. Wiley. So I certainly want to see all of those guys kind of get involved, and we're definitely going to see them all play without a doubt. When I look at the defensive side, Rusty, I think one of the big concerns that's kind of sneaking up on people as they're watching the NFL preseason and they watch those rosters get finalized this past week with Chaz Chambliss and Nazir Stackhouse making rosters and Warren Brinson and all of that stuff. Defensively, I mean, how does Georgia keep it rolling defensively? And something you said on your show the other night, by the way, if y'all didn't see it, DawgsHQ Live with Rusty Mansell Tuesday night was awesome. Rusty had a lot of things. You and I have had this conversation, and you pointed it out the other day. It's Kirby, it's Schumann, it's Trey Scott, it's Travaris Robinson. I just can't bring myself to doubt them. But personnel-wise, what are you looking for?
Well, we've talked about it, and this will be the last time we have to bring it up until we actually get to see it. But you want to see, kind of what they're looking at as far as the other safety spot, and that's a big void when you start talking about Malachi Starks. Does Ellis Robinson start there? What is Elo Mendoza? The transfer from Army at edge. Is he a guy that there's in early? Gabe Harris. How do they use Gabe Harris at big end? They use him at Jack Backer because he has split time in different meetings. And what impact does Elijah Griffin have? He was the number 1 rated defensive lineman in high school football last year. Our Charles Power, who's the director of scouting and national recruiting for Rivals.com, said he's the best defensive line prospect in the last 2 or 3 cycles.
One quick thing on that. Chris Lowe, by the way, brand new addition to On 3, had a really good note on the dog walk on our message board yesterday about Elijah Griffin. So if you're not signed up, come on over. Chris is as connected as they get. Had a really good. I wanted to bring that up real quick, not let it slip by. But Chris Lowe had a really good note there on Elijah Griffin. But continue on, man. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's great. That's great. That's a national perspective on that. And look, we're a couple hours away. We have talked about this for 7 months now, and we can give you every expert opinion, but today we're going to see a sample size of that. And I've also said Georgia's not going to show their cards defensively unless they have to. You wouldn't anticipate them having to. But today, I don't think Georgia's going to show their complete third down package. We will see who starts at edge today. It's going to be Chris Jones. It's going to be my man 33 there. Is it going to be Elo Medozi? All those guys. So we'll see there. And Jamal Scott says, "Do they confirm Janelle is hurt? Was that fake?" Came out and said that wasn't accurate news. We did get banged up a little bit. I can assure you he got banged up a little bit in practice, but does he? We didn't know if this was something that was just that day, or if it was something that's going to impact him this weekend. We don't anticipate that, but we'll find out today. There was a lot of rumors this week, and you sent me a couple. I was like, Jake, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. We're on game. It never failed. Here we are on game week, man, and then start hearing rumors. So we'll all find out today. But,
yeah, you hadn't heard a word about really anybody being banged up or injured. I mean, Malachi Tolliver, was one. That's certainly not a good one because he was your number 2 center and all of that stuff. But hadn't heard a word, and all of a sudden game week comes around and so-and-so's in a boot, so-and-so's in a boot. Brother, y'all listen, I'm telling you, if you ever hear a rumor or on campus in Georgia and you see a player in the boot, that does not mean they are out. It means that they are trying to get some rest on that ankle, on that foot, or whatever. I told you I was in one a couple years ago for rolled my ankle real rough and had a heel injury, and I put one on. I had it on for 2 days, and I was like, okay, I see what this is all about because it changed everything. So yeah, that's the way it is. But Kirby said on Jonel Aguero, he said he's fine, he's healthy and ready to go. Is what he told us. He said it was some misinformation. I don't think anybody ever reported that Jonel was going to miss time or that he was severely hurt or anything like that. I think everybody was just saying, hey, the word is Jonel went down in practice. Sometimes those things look bad and they aren't. Sometimes they don't look bad and they are. But if Kirby is to be believed, and in my experience, if he doesn't say day to day or we're trying to get him back, then usually that's a pretty good sign. But if he says either of those things, you're kind of worried about him real quick. Folks, we're running out of time here. We've got to kind of get loose from here. We got to go cover a game. But man, it's been so much fun here at Redstone. Russ, we get to do this 6 more times, dude. We get to do this 6 more times, and I can't imagine. Season opener, there's a lot of buzz around it, but I can't imagine how great it's going to be when Texas and Ole Miss and Alabama come through. And we'll be out here again next Saturday for Austin P at the same time and same channel. But I know you're excited to get out here as soon as you can possibly get out here.
Well, I'll be out there Alabama weekend. I promise you right now, it'll be on, and I'll be out there the rest of the year with you. Austin P next week. I'll be back in here live with you. I do want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in Tuesday night. That is something we're going to try to do Tuesday nights from now on for a little while and see how it goes. But we also got the Georgia show on Sunday. We're doing post game today.
We're going to do post game, but it's not going to be right after the game. We gotta get interviews and everything like that knocked out post game. But yeah, we will be live after the game to kind of break down what we saw, and then we'll be with you again tomorrow night on the Georgia show. Just to kind of after some time to let it digest and to talk about what we saw across college football in week 1. Rusty, I'm really excited about the season because I felt like last year one thing we learned, and I don't know that it had anything to do with the 12-team playoff or anything like that, but man, the road teams struggled last year. So, you take out Alabama and what they did at LSU, and you take out what Georgia did at Texas, and man, there just was not a whole lot of road game action last year in terms of teams being able to make upsets and win even as favorites. I wonder if that holds through this year, because if it does, Georgia's got a real big home schedule. They got a chance to win some big games.
You also think about the bigger picture. Didn't all 4 teams that have a bye lost in the playoff game? So, we spent all fall talking about, I don't care what you do, you got to get to that bye. Just get to the bye. And guess what? All those teams lost. So, we're learning too. We're learning too. So, man, we'll see. And, getting text messages. I guess I got a good buddy there, Philip Villar. His son plays at Cartersville.
He was asking me about you a minute ago.
His son plays at Cartersville, and he's there today on a little visit. So appreciate everybody checking in down there, and let's make this your listen. I got buddies that stopped in yesterday, so there's some guys that are already in town. They stopped by Redstone yesterday and filled up. So do that too. Make sure you tell them that you saw us there on DawgsHQ, and appreciate those guys being a part of us this year.
And listen, they've got merchandise tents outside. They've got the most unique merchandise you'll find inside. wonderful food, pulled pork. They got I can't even hardly focus right now because all I can do is smell boiled peanuts. They're just going wild. I hadn't eaten any breakfast or anything like that this morning. I was a little nervous about doing the show, so my stomach was a little nuts about getting out here and setting everything up. And so I got to go eat something. I'm starving. But listen, Redstone is awesome. We love these guys. We love being here, and we will be 6 more times this fall, starting next week. Austin P, 10:30 live from Redstone. We appreciate them. We appreciate everybody who tuned in, everybody who showed up, and let's see what happens. Georgia versus Marshall, 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. We'll catch you later on, folks.
Thanks, guys.